Did you know certain vegetables you thought were healthy could quietly harm your body after 60? It sounds shocking, but it's true. As we age, our digestive systems change, our nutrient absorption weakens, and our sensitivity to natural toxins increases. And the foods we once trusted without a second thought, some of them become silent threats, especially when eaten the wrong way too often or without knowing their hidden risks. In today's video, we're uncovering 6 common vegetables that older adults should think twice about. These aren't exotic, hard-to-find items. They're right in your kitchen or maybe even on your plate today. But once you understand how they interact with aging bodies, especially in areas like blood pressure, thyroid health, and kidney function, you'll see why so many experts now urge caution. This video isn't about fear, it's about knowledge, about giving you back the control that often slips away quietly with age. So if you're in your 60s, 70s, or beyond, stay with me because the vegetables we'll go over might just be ones you've trusted for decades. And what you'll learn today could help you avoid long-term damage that no one warned you about. Number 1, a vegetable that spikes oxalates and kidney risk. Let's begin with one that many health-conscious people swear by, spinach. It's packed with iron, magnesium, and vitamin K, and you've likely been told your whole life that it's a superfood. But here's the part most people never hear. Spinach is also extremely high in oxalates. Oxalates are natural compounds that bind with calcium in your body, and when that happens, they form sharp crystals. These crystals can settle in your kidneys and contribute to painful kidney stones, especially in older adults whose filtration systems have started to slow down. For someone over 70, the kidneys are no longer as efficient as they were decades ago, and adding high oxalate foods to an already aging filtration system, that's a recipe for trouble. Now you might be thinking, but I've eaten spinach all my life without issues, and you wouldn't be alone. But aging bodies are different. Your risk isn't the same as it was at 40 or even 60. Your hydration level, your calcium balance, and your gut bacteria, all of them shift as you get older. And that means your body can no longer process these compounds as smoothly. One 75-year-old man I spoke to, Henry, had no prior kidney issues until he started drinking green smoothies every morning with raw spinach. Within a few months, he was in the ER with his first kidney stone. The doctors told him flat out his healthy habit had overwhelmed his kidneys. There's also something subtle going on here, the illusion of control. When we feel we're doing something good, like eating greens, we don't question the details. But raw spinach is very different from lightly steamed spinach. Steaming cuts oxalate levels by as much as 80%, while raw spinach keeps every bit of it intact. That's why some dietitians now recommend older adults limit raw spinach or rotate it out with lower oxalate greens like arugula or romaine. So what's the takeaway? Spinach isn't bad, it just isn't the harmless health hero we assumed, especially not for aging kidneys. If you're still including raw spinach daily, think about switching things up. Your body will thank you later. Number 2, a vegetable that disrupts thyroid balance. Next up is a family of vegetables that often shows up on heart-healthy lists, cruciferous vegetables, especially raw kale. Yes, kale, the poster child of clean eating. But here's what many people don't realize. Kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and broccoli all contain compounds called goitrogens. These can interfere with your thyroid's ability to use iodine, which is essential for making thyroid hormones. When your thyroid function slows down, it doesn't just affect your energy, it touches nearly every part of your body, your metabolism, your mood, your weight, even your heart rhythm. Now here's where it becomes especially important after 70. As we age, our metabolism naturally slows. So if you unknowingly start interfering with your thyroid on top of that, you're setting the stage for fatigue, brain fog, and sudden weight gain that seems to come out of nowhere. One woman I spoke with, Judith, she was 74, was blending raw kale into her smoothies every day. She was also feeling cold all the time, tired even after sleep, and had no idea why. It wasn't until her doctor ran a thyroid panel that they found her hormone levels were crashing. Once she stopped eating raw kale daily and started cooking her greens, her symptoms improved dramatically. And that's the key here. How you eat them matters. Cooking cruciferous vegetables helps break down most of the goitrogens, making them far less disruptive. But the raw, juiced, or powdered versions, They go straight into your system with full potency. That's why the danger is often invisible. You think you're doing something good for your heart, but meanwhile, your thyroid is quietly taking the hit. So if you're over 70 and you've been loading up on raw kale, Brussels sprouts, or cabbage, especially in juices or smoothies, this might be something to reconsider. It's not about cutting them out completely. It's about understanding your body's changing needs and adjusting how you nourish it. Number 3, a vegetable that raises blood pressure through hidden sodium. Next on our list is something most people wouldn't even think to worry about: pickled vegetables, especially pickled cucumbers, radishes, or even pickled beets. Now, these might taste refreshing, nostalgic even. Maybe they remind you of your grandmother's kitchen or old cookouts with friends, but what they contain is far more modern and far more dangerous hidden sodium. Most of the time when people talk about sodium, they think about salty chips or processed meats, but pickled vegetables can be deceptively high in salt because of the brine they're soaked in. One small serving can easily carry more sodium than an entire meal should have. For older adults, this is a major concern. After 70, your kidneys naturally become less efficient at filtering excess sodium from the blood. That means salt starts to accumulate, leading to higher blood pressure, water retention, and added stress on the heart. I once met a man named Robert. He was 76 and living on his own after his wife passed. He didn't cook much, so he relied on jars of pickled vegetables for flavor and convenience. But his doctor started noticing spikes in his blood pressure, even though he hadn't added table salt to anything. Turns out, those pickled side dishes he had every night were quietly loading his body with sodium. Once he switched to fresh, steamed vegetables and cut back on the pickles, his numbers started dropping within weeks. It's not about banning every pickle from your plate, but being aware of portion sizes and how often you're having them. Some brands now make low-sodium versions, and those can be a better choice, but better still is to treat pickled vegetables like a condiment, not a daily side. A little taste once in a while is one thing. Making it a habit is another story entirely. As we get older, our blood vessels lose some elasticity, and the heart has to work harder to keep things moving. Adding excess sodium, especially from places we don't expect, is like pouring pressure into a system that's already aging. So take a look in your fridge. If those jars of pickled vegetables are disappearing faster than anything else, your blood pressure may be paying the price, whether you realize it or not. Number 4, a vegetable that quietly spikes your blood sugar. This one often catches people off guard. Corn, sweet corn, corn on the cob, canned corn, even corn-based snacks. Most folks think of corn as a vegetable, something harmless, even healthy. It's colorful, it's sweet, it's familiar. But what many don't realize is that corn is actually one of the highest glycemic vegetables out there. That means it can spike your blood sugar rapidly, especially if you're eating it without enough fiber or protein to slow things down. Now, if you've lived your whole life enjoying buttered corn at summer barbecues, this might feel hard to hear. But here's the issue. After 70, your body's sensitivity to insulin naturally decreases. Your metabolism slows. Your ability to regulate blood, sugar shifts, and your risk of prediabetes or diabetes quietly rises. That's when foods like corn become more of a problem than a pleasure. Corn is mostly starch. A half cup of sweet corn has more sugar than you might think, and it converts to glucose quickly. This rapid spike in blood sugar can lead to energy crashes, increased hunger shortly after meals and over time, damage to blood vessels and nerves if blood sugar remains too high too often. For older adults already on the edge of metabolic issues, that's a dangerous pattern. Let me give you an example. Susan, a 72-year-old I once worked with, loved canned corn. She'd mix it into rice, soups, even have it on toast. She wasn't eating candy or cake, but she couldn't figure out why she felt so fatigued all the time. Her doctor eventually tested her A1C levels, and they were creeping toward the diabetic range. It wasn't until she replaced the corn with leafy greens and high-fiber beans that her blood sugar began to stabilize and her energy returned. Corn is not inherently evil, but it's not as neutral as many believe. And when you combine it with other starchy foods like potatoes, white bread, or rice, it pushes the body into a kind of sugar overload. Especially in older adults, this can make your pancreas work harder than it should, or worse, wear it out over time. If you're someone who's managing your blood sugar or simply trying to avoid the blood sugar roller coaster, it may be time to treat corn as a once-in-a-while item, not a staple. You don't have to fear food, but you should understand it. Corn can still have a place, but that place might be a few steps back from center stage. Number 5, a vegetable that hides heavy metal risks. Spinach. Yes, I know it's often praised as a superfood, and in many ways it is. It's packed with iron, calcium, magnesium, and antioxidants. But there's a lesser-known side to spinach that becomes more important as we age, especially for those who eat it often. You see, spinach tends to absorb and retain high levels of oxalates and even heavy metals, particularly cadmium, from the soil. And these compounds over time can quietly undermine your health. Let's unpack that a bit. Oxalates are naturally occurring in many plants, but spinach is one of the highest sources. For some people, especially those with kidney issues, a high intake of oxalates can lead to kidney stones or aggravate existing kidney conditions. As we age, kidney function can decline naturally, even in the absence of disease, which means our bodies are less efficient at processing and eliminating these substances. What was harmless at 40 may become a real burden at 75, but the part many people never hear about is the heavy metal angle. Spinach grown in contaminated soil can accumulate cadmium, a toxic metal that's been linked to kidney damage, bone loss, and even certain cancers. And unfortunately, cadmium contamination in agricultural soil isn't as rare as we'd like it to be. It's often the result of phosphate fertilizers, industrial runoff, or even air pollution settling into the soil over time. Once it's in the plant, it's in your body. Now, this doesn't mean you need to fear all spinach. The real risk comes when you eat large amounts frequently, especially if you rely on spinach as a daily salad base, smoothie ingredient, or cooked side dish. The dose makes the poison. It also depends on the source. Organic spinach doesn't guarantee heavy metal safety unless the soil itself has been tested and verified, and washing it doesn't remove internal contaminants. I knew a man named Harold, 82 years old, sharp as a tack, and proud of his green routine. Every morning, without fail, he'd blend spinach into his smoothie. After 2 years of doing this, his doctor noticed his kidney function markers had subtly shifted, not enough to trigger alarm bells, but enough to make them investigate. The tests showed elevated levels of cadmium, a known byproduct of the fertilizers used where Harold lived. Once he cut back on spinach and started rotating in other greens, his levels began to normalize. So what do we take away here? Spinach is full of nutrients, but it can come with risks, especially if it's consumed regularly or comes from contaminated soil. So while it's not a food to be banned, it is one that needs to be eaten thoughtfully, ideally in moderation, and sourced carefully. Number 6, a vegetable that can irritate your digestive system. Finally, let's talk about something more basic, tomatoes. Tomatoes are a beloved vegetable that makes its way into nearly every type of meal: salads, soups, sauces. But for older adults, especially those with sensitive stomachs, tomatoes can pose a unique problem. Tomatoes are naturally acidic, and that acidity can irritate the lining of your digestive system, causing discomfort, indigestion, or even reflux, particularly as you get older. At 60 plus, your digestive system slows down, and what was once an easy meal to digest now might trigger acid reflux or bloating. Some people notice heartburn even after a small serving of tomato sauce. If you already have any issues with acid reflux, ulcers, or gastritis, tomatoes can worsen those conditions. I spoke with an older woman, Janet, who told me she loved making a rich tomato soup every day as part of her lunch routine. But over time, she started feeling more bloated, had trouble sleeping because of acid reflux, and even had some discomfort in her stomach. After consulting her doctor, she realized that all the acidity from the tomatoes was likely contributing to her digestive woes. By swapping her daily tomato-rich meals with gentler alternatives like squash soups or non-acidic vegetable bases, she started feeling better within days. Tomatoes aren't the villain here, but as we age, our tolerance for acidic foods can change. If you're struggling with stomach issues, it might be worth cutting back on tomatoes or balancing them with non-acidic foods to reduce irritation. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.